When I first moved to Korea, I did not expect to change at all, but somehow I ended up changing quite drastically. Hello everyone, 안녕하세요. I've been living in Korea for 3 years now, and these are 10 ways in which Korea has changed me. The first way in which I've changed is my food preferences. I eat Korean food every day now, for lunch and dinner. I don't eat breakfast. I tried Korean food for the first time at the age of 23 when I came to visit Korea, and I really enjoyed it. And then every time I would come back to Korea, I would try something new. My eyes were open to completely new flavors, and now Korean food is literally my favorite food. I absolutely love bread and pasta, but I just can't eat that every day anymore. When I travel out of Korea for a long period of time, I can only go a few days without Korean food, and then I become miserable. Now I find myself needing rice, Korean soup, and kimchi to sustain myself. The second way in which I've changed is I make noises when I eat. In South Africa, it is rude to make noises when you eat. When I first came to Korea and I ate noodles or ramen, I used to eat like super quietly, like pick up the noodles like this. And actually, my husband used to tease me about it for a long time, but I just became comfortable eating with him, I guess. And he was slurping his noodles, so I also started. I actually find it's easier and more comfortable to eat noodles that way. I think it's quite normal to make a sound when you're eating noodles in Korea, but I do know that there's still a lot of people that don't like it. I also make a satisfied or no, not like that. Something like this after like taking a sip of delicious hot Korean soup, or when I have a sip of soju. I don't know, I can't explain it. It's just become like a natural way for me to express how happy I am. It's like such a habit now, it just happens naturally. Number 3, my mannerisms have changed. Now I bow every time I say hello, goodbye, or thank you. And I also use 2 hands every time I'm giving or receiving something. I even bow and use 2 hands at the same time while saying 감사합니다. 이렇게. These gestures have just become second nature to me now, that even when I travel out of Korea and I say hello to people, I speak to them in English, but I say hello, hello. I just keep bowing to everybody. And even when I say thank you, I'll be like, oh, thank you. And then whenever I do it, I always feel like, oh, what am I doing? I feel like maybe people are thinking, what is she doing? Why is she doing that? Why is she bowing? I don't know what people are thinking, but it's just my habit now. I can't stop it. Number 4, I've embraced the drinking culture. Before I came to Korea, I did not drink at all. But now I love going out with my friends to a sulchip. Sitting and eating some delicious food, having good conversation with my friends and drinking together. It's less about having alcohol and more about connecting with people and sharing good moments together. I don't drink much and I don't drink very often, but I'm just saying that I do enjoy it every now and then. Number 5, I prefer chopsticks over knives and forks. So I realized this recently when I was with friends in a sulchip, and I can't remember what we were eating, but they gave us all forks to use to eat. And when I got the fork, I thought to myself, I would actually prefer to eat this with chopsticks. And that's when I realized I'm more comfortable with eating with chopsticks. I don't use a knife and fork very often anymore. Whether it's rice, noodles, salad, whatever, chopsticks are comfortable for me now. Number 6, I'm not as friendly to strangers as I used to be. Back home, I used to smile at strangers and even say a casual hi or good morning when passing by someone. But here in Korea, people don't really interact with strangers in that way. So now I found myself becoming a bit more reserved. So I'm used to smiling at people when I make eye contact with them because I don't want like the awkward eye contact moment. I don't know, I just want to be friendly. I'm used to doing that, and I've done it a few times in Korea and I've received a few strange looks. Not bad looks, but kind of like, why is she smiling at me? Does she know me? Like something like this. So because of that, I smile a lot less. Now I just tend to walk with my eyes on the floor. Another thing is holding doors open for strangers. This is so normal in South Africa. So if someone's walking behind me and I walk inside and I see them, I will hold the door open so that they can also go through. So I've had the experience once when I was walking out of a shopping mall in Korea, and there were a lot of people. It was a busy day, probably a weekend. So I walked out and there was someone behind me, and actually there was lots more people. So I walked out of the door and I held the door open, and the person just walked past and didn't smile or say thank you. And then the next person walked and walked and walked. It was a busy day. I was very surprised, and then I realized I've just become a doorman. So I just let the door go, I had to, and I walked away. Since then, I don't really hold the door open, but it does depend on the situation. Recently, actually, I held the door open for an old lady and she said thank you to me. So I actually really appreciated that. It made my day. Number 7, I've become so much more appreciative of nature. I grew up in South Africa and it is such a beautiful country. But I realized when I moved to Seoul that I really took for granted the nature and the beauty that I could see every day in South Africa. So when I grew up, I was just used to it. Seoul is obviously a big city, lots of skyscrapers and apartment buildings. And if you want to go see greenery, you have to travel to a park. Now I jump at any chance to escape the city and immerse myself in nature. I find that it actually has such a healing power. I love being in nature and just relaxing. Number 8, I feel a lot more stress and pressure than I used to. This is all just my opinions and how I feel. I'm just a sensitive person. I'm not saying that I'm right. I feel like the Korean society puts a lot of emphasis on status and success, and that has put a lot of pressure on me to achieve more and to keep up with a fast-paced lifestyle here. And I think there's a very specific way in which success is perceived here. Like if you have a certain job or a certain car or you earn a certain amount of money or you live in a certain apartment, then you are perceived as successful. But I don't believe that. I think success is different for everybody depending on what you want for your life. So I sometimes feel pressure like, oh, I need to work towards these things. I need to do these things to be successful, but not really. I don't want to feel these pressures. I want to just live the way that I want to, happily with my husband. I think materialism is another part of it. I feel like the materialism is quite high here. And if you own like expensive clothes and handbags, it kind of somehow increases your status. So I've never ever wanted to buy something like a Chanel handbag or whatever, because I've always thought it was a huge waste of money. Unless I was really rich, for sure, I would go for it because I could afford it comfortably. But I do not want to use like my whole month's salary to buy a handbag. And I've always felt that way. But since moving here, every now and then I feel this pressure like I need to have a Dior bag to look impressive to other people. I need to have these nice things in order for other people to respect me, but I don't need it. I would prefer to save that money and use it towards my future, like buying a house one day. I don't want to complain and be negative, so I'm so sorry if it comes across that way. I just want to be honest with you guys. Those are some feelings that I've been dealing with, so let's just move on to the next one. Number 9, sharing food. I'm used to sharing. Of course, my parents taught me to share. But what I mean is, in Korea, when you eat together with a bunch of people, sometimes there will be dishes, for example, like a doenjang jjigae on the table, and everybody will use their spoon that they've been eating with to dip it into the doenjang jjigae and eat. And at first I was like, what? Everyone's dipping their used spoon into the same bowl? For me, that was a bit of a shock at first, but now it's completely normal to me. It doesn't bother me at all. And I've actually come to really like how people share meals like that in Korea. One time I went out for lunch with 2 of my friends in South Africa, so there were 3 of us. We each ordered our own pizza and we ate our own pizza. And for me, that was a bit strange. Even though I used to be used to that, I found that kind of strange because I'm so used to like everybody saying to each other, what do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? And then they order like a few dishes and everyone just shares those dishes. So I've really come to love the Korean way of just sharing food with each other. I think that's really great. Number 10, I speak Korean without even realizing it. Even though I'm not fluent in Korean, I still find myself speaking it very naturally sometimes. When I travel out of Korea, sometimes when I'm speaking to other people, I will talk to them in Korean. So I will say like, 감사합니다, or 물 주세요. And then I realize, water please. I even find that sometimes I forget words in English, but I remember the Korean word. I will be saying something like, oh, I really feel like eating chamong. Chamong? What is chamong in English? Grapefruits. But I think that this is a good sign that I'm improving my Korean and I'm becoming more comfortable with it. So those are the 10 ways in which Korea has changed me. I'm sure there's many other ways that I just haven't realized yet. If you guys have ever lived in another country, let me know, how has it changed you? If you stayed until the end of the video, thank you so much. Please leave a like, I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.